Right. So good afternoon again and welcome to the NEBOSH National General Certificate, right? As I was saying there, we are on chapter 5 today. And like from the very first part of it, and like at the end of today, you can actually stop and do passive one time, right? Because a lot of it is relevant to the exam. 3.4 is the project. If you have your book, you can turn to that. 3.4, you'll see risk assessment. So we normally teach the project inside there. That may not be until that's a couple of Saturdays a week still, right? 3.1 is today, 3.2 maybe today too. 3.3 is kind of long, but not too relevant for exam. 3.4, we teach the project in that 3.4. 5, 6, 7, 8 are very short concepts anyway, right? And so that's the good thing about the NEBOSH, though, if I could mention that here, is that the course is not it's not like a year certificate then, it's like a 4 months and you finish. And many people are looking for the certs, at least you have the opportunity to get the cert once you finish your course of study anyway, right? Let me admit some people again here. So I think the numbers have risen a bit. And make sure no one is outside, right? And so let's go into this one. Chapter 3. If you have your books, page 3 of 3. If not, well, page 3 of 3 doesn't really have anything on it. We're actually going into page 4, but you'll see how simple this chapter is anyway. It's just a matter to tie in the exam question, right? Let's go to this one. So we have described the concept of the health and safety culture and how it influences performance. Summarize how health and safety culture can be improved. That's how far we'll get today. We wouldn't get into 3.3, right? Like those two bullet points are quite deep in itself. Summarize the human factors which positively or negatively influence behavior and work in a way that can affect health and safety. That is next week, Saturday, right? So the revision would have been the policy from last week. And I guess what influences the review of a health and safety policy? Anybody want to kind of just mention that? Anybody remember the elements of the health and safety policy? What are the three pieces of a health and safety policy? Anyone?
So one of them was the specifications, the arrangements,
Okay, arrangement is one. Anybody else?
the statement of intent, and I think it was
Anybody?
also the
Yeah.
organization.
Right, okay. But I did say anybody else. Okay. So the rest of you all agree with that? What are the three pieces of the policy?
The statement, the organization, and the arrangement.
Very good, very good. Right. Thanks there, Derek. Thanks there again, Michelle, as well. Right. So excellent answers. All right, let's go to today's work. Today's work is so simple. Anyway, let's go to it. So the meaning of the term health and safety culture, I'll stick to the slide for a bit because once I explain, 3.1 is finished. Yeah, NEBOSH is not really long, right? It is really not hard either. Once you catch a technique, you'll pass the exam, right? So what is culture? We have here on the slide says, culture is the way we do things around here. The Health and Safety Commission, as the HSC, which is actually no longer around, they're actually part of the HSE today, but they were the one who did this definition, right? They said culture, it's a product of individual and group values, attitudes, perceptions, competencies, and pattern of behavior that determines an organization commitment, style, and its ability to manage health and safety. I'll explain that for you just now. Just reading this slide, right? Climate, they say culture indicators as perceived by an individual or group at any moment in time. I'll read about one or two more, right? But you have to turn the page. If those of us in the book, you'll have to turn the page to see this is on page 4 now. Right? The relationship between health and safety, culture, and performance. So they say a good attitude and behavior towards health and safety is influenced by a positive health and safety culture. a positive attitude and behavior towards health and safety would reduce human failures, errors, and violations. An organization will perform strongly in health and safety would reduce human failures. Relationship between health and safety culture and performance, right? Better motivated workers who are more likely to follow rules and procedures, fewer accidents, lost time, and absenteeism rate. You may have less fines and HSE matters with the regulatory authorities, such as the HSE or OSHA, better reputation with customers and clients. That's the benefit of a good safety culture, right? Here we have, this is on page 5. We see how fast it goes, but I'll come back and explain, right? It's from really simple stuff. Indicators of an organization health and safety culture. If you watch page 5, you'll see the same thing. Accident rates, absenteeism, staff turnover, level of compliance with safety rules and procedures, complaints about working condition. Here we have factors that may promote a positive health and safety culture. Management, commitment, and leadership. Health and safety being part of your organization's strategy and business plan. Do they provide you information, instruction, and training, involvement and consultation, promotion of ownership? Do they set and meet targets? Factors that may promote a negative health and safety culture, company being reorganized, lack of confidence in the organization's objectives and methods, uncertainty about maybe your job, your salary, management making decisions that may prejudice mutual trust, or it may lead to mixed signals regarding their commitment, right? So this is actually the end of 3.1 already, but I have to go back and explain. If you turn your last page at page 6, you'll see the same heading. Influence of peers, right? But let's go back and explain it as opposed to reading it, right? So what you'll see here, if you want, you could take some notes, right? What you'll see here, for those of us who know a bit of this, is that every company has a culture. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad, but every company has a culture, right? And culture is something that is intangible. You cannot really get a policy for culture, and there's no policy for culture. Like our last week class, like there's a HSE policy, you could ask, can I see your HSE policy statement, right? So you can ask for that, but you cannot ask for the culture of a company. You can't ask to see it. Culture is intangible, but it's there. Culture is like the air you're breathing in. It's intangible, you can't see it, but it's there, right? So what is culture then, right? Let me just take you back a bit. Let me take you back a bit. Let me take you back a bit, right? So if you remember your primary school, your secondary school, if you have kids or if you have, friends who have kids, right? And, they'd have written essay or common entrance in Guyana, right? There's something about schools then, right? There's like schools have a culture, right? It's like you want, and you can think of yourself as well, because you may have gone to some of those schools, right? So you may have thought about the best of your primary school. You may have thought the best about your secondary school, or not the best. Doesn't really matter because it had a culture anyway, right? So everywhere you go have a culture, right? Even though it's not touch, like you can't touch culture, but the school you went to had a culture, right? Your secondary school, your primary school, it had a culture, right? So culture, they say, if you read this definition, culture is like the values of the school. It's like the perception people have about that school. We're talking about schools, but I'll come to company just now, right? But just trying to take it back, right? So it's like the perception of that school. The population perceive that school as a good school. If you had gone to that school, people say you're going to a good school. And if you had gone to like a normal school, but I say normal, right? Secondary, not a prestigious school, people have opinion about that as well. So That is what culture is. Culture is like the perception of a person, right? And for the workers, it's the same thing. You have companies with a good safety culture, and then you have companies with a negative safety culture, right? People take certain pride in. They will take certain pride in saying, I am a safety at Atlantic LNG, or I'm a safety at Massey, or Proman, whichever company, right? So there's a certain pride, right? You wear that coverall. If you have a shirt, the shirt have Massey on it, or it have Proman on it. If you have the shirt and the pants, not a coverall, right? So you have a certain pride, but then why? Because your salary, I'm just saying this, right? Your salary is would of course be good, but there may be somebody in another company that your salary could be better than the person in Massey. But there's a perception about Massey, and there's a perception about Proman, and there's a perception about Atlantic. You are seen to be in a good company, and that is what culture is, right? Watch it. Culture is the pattern of behavior in that company. In that company, they know safety is my first priority. They don't just say it. Atlantic is one of those companies. Massey Wood, or well, Wood as they call them today, is one of those companies. They are seen to be a good company. It's like if you say you're safety there, you're employee there, you are seen to be in a good company, right? So culture is intangible, unlike the policy from last week. Culture is intangible, right? And there may be good cultures and bad cultures, just like how your primary school or your secondary school, right, would have had the perception of who created the perception. It's not me. It's the population, right? That perception is always there for those of us in Trinidad about, schools like Presentation College, QRC, NAPS, Naparima, and those of us in Trinidad anyway. I think most of us here are from Trinidad, right? And you may have prestigious schools in Guyana that I'm not aware of, but maybe maybe the one that we are affiliated with, right? The New Guyana School has a good reputation. They do have a good reputation, right? But so that's one of the top schools in Georgetown, right? But there's another one. There's actually another school in Georgetown that probably is not seen as a top one, right? But that is what culture is. Culture, if you read the first one, is the things that go on around here. The values of the school, the attitudes, the perception, the pattern of behavior. And in terms of health and safety, how does that manage health and safety in the long run, right? Now, within this formula, or within this passage, or within this point, there's a very important concept you have to learn. And if you could catch that concept, you can start doing past papers on chapter 3 one time. So let's take 1 minute and try to get it, right? So listen to it. I'm going to write it on the side here for you. So within this here is a powerful aspect for the exam. And the powerful aspect, you're actually looking at it. What you're looking at is what culture is. They say culture is the way we do things around here. And because of that, most people understand. If you please write this down, because this is your question already. And if, like I said, if you turn that page, 3.1 is actually finished already, right? If you came in a bit late, right, I want to tell you something, right? I want to tell you something. Of all the points in chapter 3, you have 3.1 to 3.9, I believe. Of all the points, let me see, 3.8. Now you have up to 3.8, right? Of all the things, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, 3.4. The most common one for exam is 3.1. The most common one is now, right now. The one we're doing today, right? I cannot say if a question in 3.7 is coming, or 3.6, or 3.4, or 3.5. But most past papers have a question on 3.1. Right? Take your time and write that down. I can prove it to you when we finish. We're finishing just now. Right? I'll probably try to tie in 3.2 is just as easy as 3.1. It's actually the same thing. 3.3 is long, but it doesn't have any past papers on it. 3.3 come like negligence. Like when we taught negligence in chapter 1, it have no past papers on negligence. 3.3 is like that. 3.3 is long. Not too long in a normal class long, but it have no past papers on it. Right? 3.6 so you may get a question here and there, but 3.1, you're almost guaranteed to get a question in it. And most people like this question. Most people start the exam with this question. If it didn't start from number one, most people start with this, with this question, right? So let's go back to the concept, right? So what is culture? They say culture is, watch it, culture is the individual. So we can say culture is made up of two things. Culture is made up of two things. Culture is made up of the individual, of which I'm going to put you, because you are the individual. You are the worker. Culture is made up of you. You contribute to the culture of the company you are in. You contribute to the culture of the school that you are in. Think about your primary school. Think about your secondary school. Right? There are two things that make up culture in a school and in a company. I'm just using a school example here because you could probably relate to that a little bit better, right? So they say you went to a good primary school. I met someone, right? Let me just give you a funny. I met someone. I tried to change my marker just now. I met a worker. And this man, now, anyway, let me finish his story first, right? This man seemed to be suggesting that he went to a good primary school. And that was his claim. I'm not too sure why. But everybody different. I just telling you what happened, right? He was often of this opinion that because he went to a good primary school, it was like a boasting point there that he went to this. I wouldn't call it him at this school, that he went to that school, right? I don't really care too much about that, right? Because to me, you could go whichever primary school you want or secondary school you want, right? A lot of parents, Derek, a lot of parents, I realize, place a lot of emphasis on primary and secondary, and there's no emphasis on tertiary, right? But this is why you find a lot of people, and this guy was still looking for work, right? This is why a lot of people could be the best in primary school or secondary school, but in terms of life now, if you stop at secondary school, well, then that's where you stop at. So like, well, I wonder if you all understand it, right? So like, if you stop at secondary school, well, then you could only get secondary school jobs, right? In Trinidad and in Guyana and stuff, there's a huge emphasis now on tertiary education, right? So, a long story short, I actually paid for that man to do a course by me. I sponsored him because I didn't think as a mature person, you should be talking about primary school still. What do you all think? You don't think you should be, your claim to fame shouldn't be that you went to a good primary school, man. Because you're an adult now. And yes, that may have been good for you. You know, and again, I'm not trying to be any way funny. I'm just saying that, you know, the more you empower yourself, then the more you would be empowered. I remember telling he was looking for work. I sponsored him on a NEBOSH course. Not this one, right? I sponsored him on process safety. Right? And yeah, he got work with it and stuff. But what I was saying before that, his claim to fame was you went to a good primary school, and fine, that's good. So what I said, you in a primary school, you contributed, you in a secondary school, you contributed to the culture of that secondary school. When you pass your CXCs, they said, the school said we got X, Y, and Z passes. But it's really you who got it. But the school is saying, because you contributed to the culture, the school is saying, look, we got a good pass. We got a good pass for this school. We actually got a good pass at that school, right? But you contributed to that, right? The other thing is that in a school, who else contributes to the culture of a school? It's right in the definition here. They say culture is what is the product of the individual and the group. Who is the group in a school? Who do you think makes up the group in a school? So culture is a product of you and the group. But who is the group?
Everybody in the school, from the principal, the
Right.
staff.
Right. But okay, so in that sense, if you take you out of it, so let's say the students is you, but then the rest of the group will be the principal and staff. So very good, right? So the rest of it is the principal and staff, right? However, let's get to a company now. Remember, these are safety course. So that's trying to relate to you all in a school sense, right? But in terms of a company now, so the same thing. In Atlantic LNG, you contribute to the culture, right? In Proman, in SIS, wherever you are, in Junior Sami, you as the worker, you contribute to the culture. If you come to work on time, if you put on your PPE, if you do your job, then they have a safe day. You contributing to the culture of the school. So in terms of a company, who else will contribute to the culture of a company? In terms of the group, who is the group in the company? Who is the group? When they say the group of companies, Massey group of companies, Unicoma group of companies, who is the group? If we take you out of it, if we take the work out of it, who is the rest of them then? Who is the rest of them in the company that contributes to the culture of the company? That's an easy
Obviously, higher ups and
question. Such
well,
as,
the
okay,
other
when you
workers.
start it starts with the letter M.
The managers.
The managers, yeah. So just like our school, the culture is the students and the principal. In a company, the culture is the workers and the managers. That's what they mean by group. So please take this down. I'll tell you why just now. All of this have a point. Oh, I can just show you a pass it down. Right? So the managers, right? So the group is the managers. So when you think about it in a school, if you say, for those of us in Trinidad here, you think about, I'm just thinking of a school, right? Naparima Boys or Presentation College. So yeah, there are some good students going there, but there are some good teachers there too, right? So you get that perception, and the perception has already been here though. The perception is what we kind of inherit, sorry, about Presentation College, right? Or QRC or Bishops or whatever have you. The one in Tobago, is that one in Tobago? Signan Hill, I think it is, right? There's a perception about those schools that those are the better schools, right? So, but when you really think about it, it's because somewhere in that school there is a person, a principal that holds the standards then, right? And then somewhere in that school is probably your child, or probably you went to that school, right? So when you talk about the culture of a school, it really comprises of the students and the principal. When you think about the culture of a company, you say, well, you are in Atlantic LNG or you are in Massey. So that's you. But then the managers in Massey, the safety in Massey, they seem to be taking things seriously. So there's an overall culture, that there's an overall vibe then. The overall vibe is that Massey has a good safety culture, right? And likewise, if you're in another company, I don't want to call any names here because a lot of companies are trying. I used to call SIS, but you know what happened? You know what happened? The 3 managers in SIS is past students of mine now, so I can't say that anymore. The 3 safety managers in SIS is was part of my school. And they have been trying, they have been holding the rein, right? Now, whether or not they are supported by higher up management, I don't know. But certain companies have had like an increase in reputation then, an increase in their culture. Because culture is made up of your values, but that of your managers too. Culture is made up of your attitude, but that of your managers too. Culture is made up of your skills, your competency. Are you trained? Do you have NEBOSH? And that of the managers too. How do you behave? Do you behave in a safe way? And that of your managers too, right? So that's what culture is, right? So there's just one thing we're missing in this. You see how powerful this one slide is? But all the questions come from here, but I ain't reached the questions yet, right? I'm still trying to show you something, right? The other thing this definition says is another funny word. I'll show you the funny word I'm talking about, right? I'll read it and see if I could, I guess if I could pick it up, right? It says culture, HSC definition, right? It is a product of the individual and group values. So you kind of mentioned the individual and we kind of mentioned the group. But what does the word product mean? Product doesn't seem to be fitting to a safety course. Product. Anybody ever heard that word before? Product is a word from maths, the word of mathematics. You ever hear about the word product before? Product. What does product mean in the world of maths or mathematics?
Multiplication.
Very good, Michelle, right? So product means to multiply. So the question now is, what they're saying is that culture is made up of your values multiplied by that of the manager's values. The only question to figure out now is what does multiply mean? 'Cause we know a product means to multiply, but what does multiply mean at its core? What does multiply mean? Well, multiply means, I'll tell you what it means. If like, okay, we say we multiplying 2 times 3, right? We say 2 times 3 is 6. But how do we know that? How do you know 2 times 3 is 6?
So,
Because
well,
the
multiplication is repeated addition.
very good. So how you know 2 times 3 is 6 is that it's like taking 2, well, I guess avocados in season now in the island. So it's like getting 2 rows of avocados and you put it together. So you have 2 bags, 1 bag of 3 avocados, the other bag have another 3 avocados, right? So you have 2 bags of avocados and you put them together. So multiply means actually to put together. You should write that down. Multiply means to put together. And if you put 2 of these things together, what you're going to end up with is 6, right? So you add up all of them. Multiply, Misha said, is repeated addition, but multiply means to put together. So when you come back up here and you say now culture is the product of the individual and the group values, then if you put together your values with that of the managers, watch the next slide. You probably have it in your book already. If you put together your values and that of the managers, and you end up with a good safety culture. Watch page 4, a positive safety culture. I'm going a little too far, right? But this is like, okay, another way of saying put together is you and your managers on the same page, right? So like the company says, Monday morning, safety meeting from 7:30 to 8 o'clock. The worker says, yes, we are there for the safety meeting. The company says, let's consult, let's have a meeting to talk about accident trends. The workers are there, they are present, right? So the point of those analogies is that you have the togetherness there. If you and your managers, could I take up the maths? I'm going to show you the other question here, right? If you and your managers will be coming to the passive part, as I'm trying to tell you, right? If you and the managers are on the same page, you end up with what is called a positive safety culture. If you and your managers on the same page, you end up with a positive safety culture. If you and the managers disagree, now this disagreement could happen anywhere because culture is equal to 2 persons, you and the managers. So it may be, listen to this, it may be that you are the one. You are the one that's trying to be safe. But the manager is saying, just get the job done. Hustle, hustle, hustle. Hustle up because we gotta get paid. But you trying to be safe, you trying to follow out your JSA. The manager say you're wasting time, right? So when you have that disconnect between the managers and the employees, you end up with a negative safety culture. And that is what you're looking at in the book. Think you understand it now? Watch page 5. What you're seeing here, have you all seen page 4 that culture can be both positive and negative? Have you all seen that in the book? And if not, it's
Yes,
on the
sir.
slide. You just have plus and a minus there, right? Yeah, okay, good. So culture could be positive and negative, just like a school. You know, I mean, no offense to anybody here, but you do have good students sometimes, and you may have bad teachers, right? It all depends on you. I mean, that takes a person with backbone now. Same thing in a company. You could be the safety, you could be the one with your knee bosh, and you trying to be safe, and the managers and them, they're really taking you on too much. If you get your job done, you get a job. If you get done, you get done. But there's those stuff production, right? Some companies are different. Atlantic LNG empowers their safety people to stop production. You could stop production. You could stop production. Some companies don't like that at all, but not Atlantic. Right? So, you know what I'm saying? It's like some companies you have that positive culture, some companies they don't, and it doesn't have to come from you. You could be the good one because you're the one that's studying. you could be the one that trying to save somebody's life and the manager just saying hustle up and get the thing done, right? But whenever you have that disconnect, you end up with a negative safety culture, right? A lot of workers, I was gonna say students, but I would say workers, a lot of workers, when you realize you're in a company like that, especially if you have your NEBOSH, a lot of them end up leaving. They end up applying somewhere else now, right? You end up, and like that's why I just always say, like to you all, I would like to hear you all in good companies. I would like to hear you all, because it's NEBOSH you have. It's not Cipriani you have. You have the thing that people looking for. And I showed you that many times. I don't have to go show, but I have I have the same job folder that was updated for the week again. Right? But you have the good qualification, so try to end up in a good company, apply to the good companies and them, right? And don't just take, I mean, some people just take the very first work they can get for experience, but the thing is, you have NEBOSH, Could I tell you a funny story that happened this week? It's funny because it's true, right? And it's recent, it's not an old story, right? So I'll show it on the phone too. Let me find my phone. It's right on the desktop here. Okay. Here. So, long story short, right? Bayona was in Guyana. And a student of mine who was a teacher, she left teaching after 10 years. And she got into a company there where she took me on a tour of a big company called Gisby across there, right? Anyway, just to make this story short, I had known another student at that company, so I mentioned his name, and his name is Troydel. I'll show you his picture just now, right? So I said to Nikisia, which is the current student, well, not current, because she finished this year. She finished March this year. I was in Guyana in March as well. I actually brought her certificate and give it to her in her hand. And I think I told her this story before. She met me the first time this year. First time I met her face to face because classes is online. And when she met me, she was in a coverall. But I said, Nikisia, aren't you teaching? She said, yeah, but she went to an interview. She got the job. And the long and short of it is, I'm give it back. The long and short of it is that, so we want this kind of tour of that company. And I know I have two Guyanese here, so they know the company you're talking about, Gisby, right? So I said, well, where's Troydel? Is Troydel in this company? And she said, well, he left. So and he went to the UK. So I said, okay, I'm glad because I'm glad he's is NEBOSH he have. Right? Remember, some of your CXCs is not recognized in certain parts of the world, right? England is more GCE as opposed to CXC. So I tell myself, well, I'm glad because it's NEBOSH he have. You know what happened this week here? Now, that was a story that happened about a month ago, right? Because I came back to Trinidad this month. But this week the man called me. I saw a UK number calling me this week. No, I didn't have any contact with him. I'm just telling you all this story. This is two persons walking and talking about a past student. I'm trying to find the thing where I saw this weekend. And this story has a moral just now coming to the moral, right? So this is the guy here. You'll see for yourself. This is this weekend. This man, I saw a UK number calling me. I thought NEBOSH calling me, right? I thought it was NEBOSH calling me. +44 is the UK, right? So this student called me, well, ex-student, this is about last year, and tells me now, but I said, Troydel, I know you have left Guyana, and I told him the story of how I asked him and stuff, and Troydel said he's the safety manager of a company in England now, from last year to this year. He's on a 15-day, he's on a job site. He was telling me they are making a ship. Yes, a vessel, a ship, but huge like the Titanic. He said huge like the Titanic, 15 years, a 15 years project, and he's the safety manager of that. And he said, he called really to say it's really NEBOSH because he said, so I said to him, Troydel, call me to do some training for you. If you're the safety manager of a company with so much work, call up your boy, call me and let me come to England to do some training for you now. And that's what I did. He asked me what I had when we spoke about other things too, right? And I told him that I would do it for cheaper. I would do it for less than the companies in England. And I did do that, right? I Googled what was the price of the NEBOSH risk assessment in the UK, and I went lower than that, right? So I hope they get some work with him. But look how life is strange, right? Look how life is strange that, you know, when this man came here, in fact, he wasn't even working Gisby yet. And I think I showed you all another one. Did I show you off another one called Alonzo? I think I showed you all a guy called Alonzo. Look, this is another one, right? And so the point is here, NEBOSH is not just for Trinidad. This is somebody from Guyana, and it's not even for Guyana. This man get through with a permanent job in the UK, right? You know, and I mean that is mind blowing to me that that could happen. And what I'm saying there too, I think that is all about culture. It's all about you. It's all about how you present yourself, right? And that's what he did. Culture is you. Culture is you and the managers, right? So how do you, if you go back to the definition, I'll tell you why I said, because remember the definition spoke about competencies. Let's go back and watch the definition. Culture is your competencies, your certificates. Where could it carry you? Look at your competencies, your competencies, right? So is it Cipriani you're doing or Costa, or is it NEBOSH you're doing? And the point of this is that NEBOSH have that culture too about them, right? Nothing is wrong with Cipriani. I told you that I have 3 degrees. One of them is from Costa, the other is from the UK, of course. But nothing is wrong with Costa as a course, but Costa doesn't have that reputation. Costa doesn't have that perception as being the best qualification in terms of whatever that they offer. It doesn't have it, right? This morning I had a class, and I have 2 Guyanese in this class. So we could ask them. We could ask Sparkle and we could ask Keisha Janet if they know what UTT is. I don't know if they want to answer that question for me. Sparkle or Keisha Janet, do you all know what UTT is? UTT? I guess they don't have access
Yes,
to the
sir.
mic.
I'm
you all know
not
what it is?
familiar with it, sir.
Right. And I asked that question this morning, and I had another class with some Guyanese, and they don't know what UTT is. UTT is a local university in Trinidad here, but it's not NEBOSH. And if the folks in Guyana, which is an hour and a half away, and the folks in Grenada, which is 35 minutes away, don't know what UTT and COSTAT is, then, you know, why are people doing these qualifications? The idea is still about culture. There's a culture of NEBOSH. NEBOSH is perceived. Look at your perception. It's perceived to be the #1 course in safety, right? Anyone of you all know Troy Dodos in Guyana, Keisha Jennings or Sparkle Lynch? I don't know if you all know him, but he's not there anymore, apparently, as I told you, right? But look how
No,
far this man
sir.
reached. Yeah, look how, yeah, okay. But look how far this man reached, right? He reached further than me. I still catching my tail end. He reached further
Sir,
than me. Right?
you'll hear from me next year when I'm in the UK. Don't worry.
I'm going in December. In fact, when I told him I was coming December, he said he'll come and meet me. Right? He said for sure. He said he's gonna be in London. But he's gonna come across. And I never met him, you know. Right? This phone call is the first phone call we have had since he was a student here. I only mentioned him, like I said, in a company there because I know he was at Gisby, but from what the other lady said, he left Gisby. And lo and behold, I didn't go searching for him. I sat down right in my office here doing my work. I see +44 calling. I answered the phone. I thought it was NEBOSH. Only to hear it was Trinidad, right? So who knows where you would end up, right? Who knows where you would end up with your qualification, right? Who knows? And this is just the cert, right? What about the other levels, you know? But the cert is what is needed. Have you all done it? I've challenged you all many times. The most I could do is talk. Have you all gone on Google and put UK HSC jobs? Have you all gone on Google and put Guyana HSC jobs? Have you all gone on Google and put Trinidad HSC jobs? See for yourself, right? Anyway, the whole moral of that is all about culture. NEBOSH does have that positive culture about them. The other part of that is that you do contribute to that culture as a student of NEBOSH, right? As a student, you are the individual. NEBOSH is the group then of that entity, right? Folks, let's move on a bit. I want to kind of come to the question, right? I want you to watch page 5 a bit. I'll kind of line up my slide again back to that. Hopefully these stories motivate some of you all. And next year, I'll be talking about one of you all. Next, I should be talking about, well, of course, and one of my students here is from Proman, right? I know one of you all know I have another student at Proman, right? I think it's Aaron. I think Aaron is the guy at Proman, right? And Aidan recommended Aidan here. So, like I said, I have students all over, but it's often good to hear those good stories of people having a life now. And that's what I think NEBOSH is. NEBOSH, well, for me, it did create a life for me, but also to know that that could be transferable to people that you know. I could tell you stories of a lot of people that you don't know, but I chose Troy because I had it on the phone to prove to you now, right? Because that was this weekend that happened. Right. Anyway, folks, I wanted to watch something, right? Watch your book a bit. And there's a point of this, right? So what they're saying here on page 5 is that culture, even though you cannot touch it, you could see it. That's strange, eh? Let me say it again. Culture is perception. You cannot touch somebody's mind. You can't touch a perception, right? But you could see it. I didn't put it right that down. That's just for you, eh? Even though you cannot touch culture, culture is intangible, but you can see it. And the picture I have here is a picture of a speedometer. You see, in life, there are things you cannot see, but you could feel. And you can still see it. I'll say that again. In life, I'll give you some examples just now. In life, there are things that you cannot see, but you could feel it. And you could actually touch some parts of it, and you cannot really touch culture, but you could still see it. So that's kind of weird, right? And in life is like that. There are some things that you cannot see, for the want of this example here, but you can still measure it, right? For example, wind, like wind speed. If you look at the speedometer here, you cannot really see wind. You cannot really see air. But in life, you can measure air speed. Think about noise. You cannot see the energy that's called noise, but you can measure noise, right? So I think it's like that. So culture, you cannot see it, but you can measure it. And that's why you're looking at it. So even though you cannot see culture, a company's accident rate could tell you about the culture of that company. If you have applied for a job and you find out something about your company or that company, and they say you have found out that nobody really likes to stay in that company. As you find out, people keep telling you that this is not a company where you would stay at. This is like a stepping stone company. People work here only to get to somewhere else. You always have companies like that, right? People work here just to get to somewhere else. So what does that tell you about the culture of the company? What is it about it that has created that perception? So even though you cannot see culture, you see the fact that people are saying, you know, nobody really stays in this company for more than a year. But what about the other companies? When you apply, people say, hey, you get through, you're GT, right? You get through, you reach, right? They say, if you get through for this company, you're good to go for life, right? So there are things about a company, as I said, even though you cannot touch culture, you can actually see things about it. So the accident rates of a company gives you an idea, or it could be measured 1 accident, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 0. So there are things about the culture you can measure, and these things tell you about the culture of the company. The absenteeism rate, is it high? Is it low? If the absenteeism rate is high, that may indicate a negative safety culture. If the absenteeism rate is low, people love to come to work for you. Then the culture may be seen as positive. Sickness rates. Again, this could be in a dusty environment, right? This may not be general sickness, right? But like if the sickness rates, people are coming and complaining about coughing because of dust, irritation, noise, right? The noise level is too high. that may be representative that you have hazards then and are not being well managed, right? The levels of compliance and safety rules. If as you enter the company, most people see this as you enter the company. I remember one in Grenada. I'll tell you about it just now, right? As you enter the company, it says safety, well, PPE must be worn. But when you're driving, nobody have it on, right? So then that tells, well, they have a negative safety culture. The sign says PPE beyond this point, and you have passed the point, and nobody have it on. You ask, or I ask in Grenada, but what does the sign say? Well, where's my PPE? They say, well, we don't really bother with that here. Remember, culture is what goes on around here. But at Gisby or at Atlantic, or a lot of companies in Trinidad, at ProMan, you cannot come in without proper PPE, right? So there's a level of compliance. If you see the sign says PPE must be worn and everybody has it on, well then that is a good safety culture. Complaints about working conditions. You may want to turn the page if you're on the book, right? Complaints is on the other page, page 6. Complaints about working conditions. If a lot of people are complaining, if you get in a company, I worked in a company, right? Remember, I didn't drop from the sky like Mr. Bean, right? I worked for a company. And in my 20s, like early 20s, and everybody there was trying to leave. It didn't have one person that was trying to stay. I thought I reached. I thought by me getting that job, I thought I reached a good company. When inside the company now, all the staff members are planning to leave. Everybody planning to leave. I didn't expect that because I wasn't planning to leave. I planned to stay. But there's the culture too, because culture rubs off on you, right? By the way, I was just out of school. I wasn't studying tertiary yet, right? But everybody in that place was studying. Everybody I talked to was studying something. I was like, but wait, now I had to go and study again. I thought I had finished studying, right? But that was the culture. Everybody was studying and everybody wanted to leave, right? And they did leave. Everybody did leave. I'm aware of one person still in that company right now, more than 20 years ago, right? That person is still there, but everybody has left. One of them went on to be an auditor for Massey. She's still an auditor for Massey. One of them is the MP for Marbella. Those of us in Trinidad. Marbella is a place in Trinidad, right? The person is the MP for Marbella. Yeah. I went on, started my own school, etc. Right? Everybody kind of left. But what I say now, that was the culture. The culture was that nobody wanted to stay there as compared to some companies. The culture may be like if you're working for Exxon, or you're working for Atlantic, or you're working for Massey in Trinidad. People may just be happy. They're not looking to go anywhere, right? Because you are contented. So in that case, if you have no complaints or whatever, people are happy, people are, proud to say they're working for Massey. Well, then that's a good safety culture. But if you have complaints and everybody's saying, we're just trying to get out, the next job opportunity that comes, I'm going. But then that's a negative safety culture, right? Tell me if you understand this, and I'm now going to tell you something about the exam. Tell me if you understand the whole concept. Let's take it back. I just mentioned it briefly. What is culture? Culture can be positive and negative, and you have culture indicators. Even though you cannot see culture, you can measure culture. Life is like that. There are some things we cannot see, like the air, but we can measure the wind speed, right? Other things are like that as well. For example, like according to the Matrix movie, right? Being in love, right? You cannot really see it, but you'll know, right? So there are things that people will do and people would not do, right? So culture is like that. Culture is where it's something you can't see culture. Culture is in somebody's mind. But you could see the workers wearing PPE, you could see the managers supporting them, you could see everybody wearing PPE. I think I used that already. Or you can see workers complaining, or you can see people getting ill from dust, and that tells you something about the culture. Life is like that. There are many things we cannot see, but we can still measure it. And that's the concept of culture. Tell me if you understand that. And I'm about to tell you the past paper. Again, I told you just at the top of the hour, of all the trees, 3.1 to 3.8, the most common one is the one we're doing today. Next week, class, I cannot guarantee a question on 3.2 or 3.3, but every participle have a question on 3.1. Tell me if you understand the whole concept of culture. Just going to tell you something about the participle now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good. Anybody else? Just one person.
Yes, sir, I understand it.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes,
I understand the
yeah.
concept.
Okay, good. Thanks for the feedback. I told you to some students just start the paper with this question. You don't have to, but I don't know if anybody know this guy, a guy called Tyler. I think it was Dukaran. Tyler Dukaran. He was one of those who listened. Not everybody, when I say listen, you don't have to listen, right? It's like the day for the exam, you could do the question in any order. So you could do number 1, number 2, number 3, number 5, 6, 7, right? Fine, you can do it like that. Most people do it like that. But I would suggest them to do the ones you could do first now, like do the easy one first. And that's what Tyler did, right? He did like these. Well, in the closing interview, we have an interview to do with you after the exam. That's the pattern. He said he did the ones that he could have done first, right? And what was interesting with that technique, again, this is just interesting. It doesn't mean you have to do it. Tyler said he was finished in 4 hours time. Not 24 hours, 4 hours. That's what I would have done. But I am different. I don't have to listen. That's just an idea. That's just a technique anyway. Don't mean you have to follow it, right? But that's what I would have done. I would have done what I could do first, right? Anyway, back to the passive. But listen to what they do, right? Listen very carefully. I do have one to show you, unless if you want me to tell you and then show you. I feel I'll do that. I'll probably go look for one. But let me tell you first. And then I'll try to show you, right? If you want to see it now anyway, right? Or we could finish off. I think I'll finish off 3.1 and then I'll try to find a possible for you. So listen to what they do, right? For the exam, these questions come for a lot of marks. Crazy amount of marks. Crazy amount of marks, right? These questions come for 20 marks sometime. Now remember the pass mark is 45. So if you could do this question and the next 2 questions, you probably pass. That's what Tyler did. That's what I was telling you, right? Some people don't realize that's a powerful technique, right? Anyway, these questions, I've seen these questions for 22 marks. 22 marks, 18 marks, 15 marks, 20 marks, right? But watch the catch, right? Watch your book a bit. Watch back your book a bit, right? It was page 6, right? Or you can watch my slides because it's the same number of indicators, right? So the book presents you with the same number of indicators that I presented you with on this slide here. So the thing is this, right? How much answers is this here that you're looking at? How much is this here? If you had to count them up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The book have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? But where we getting 20 from then? Where we getting the next 14 from? Where are we going to get 14 more indicators from if the book only have 6? So the answer to that is in the explanation. What explanation? The explanation I already give you that, you see, to be a positive indicator, you must be something that is good. I don't know if I write this down. We add to this now. A positive indicator is anything that is good, right? Like the examples I give you, like the managers wearing PPE, the workers wearing PPE. When you cross the point, then when they said PPE must be worn beyond this point. So if you see that, then that's good, right? So if you understand, a positive indicator is anything that is good. And by extension, a negative indicator is anything that is bad. So as you read the case study, all you have to go and do is find the good and the bad, whichever one they ask you. In other words, then, I don't know if you, let me break it down for you all again. There is no shortage of answers. Because to be a positive indicator, you must just be something that is good. And to be a negative indicator, it must just be something that is bad. So there's no shortage of answers. You think you understand that? It's not limited to the 6 in the book. And that's what I told you, when you say you do my class, you didn't need the book. In fact, you wouldn't want the book. The book come at the price. So you want it, right? Because you pay for it. But what I'm saying is that you will know more than the book. You don't need the 6 from the book. If you know a positive indicator is anything that is good, you can just go to the case study and find the good, right? We'll do one just now. Let me just try to finish off the next page. If you turn page 6, there's something there about the influence of peers. Let me finish that, and I'll have you look at a question, right? I wouldn't do it. I may start 3.2, but I wanted to see what I'm talking about, right? So that you believe what I'm telling me, that these questions are famous. And if you have some good techniques about you could tackle this one first. Especially if it goes to 22 marks. I mean, you almost pass, right? I had a student, I tell you a story as a change in this, right? I had a student, I remember his name was Rabindra. Rabindra, right? Rabindra Singh. Here was a student, right, who only did about 5 questions on the paper, and he passed. I asked him, what is wrong with you? You shouldn't take that transfer exam, but that's what he did. He just do what he could do, and he passed. He just felt that once he get the 45, he check up his marks. When he get 55, he say he stop. That's kind of mad, eh? But the thing is, I mean, that's madness. I'm not telling you, please, I just telling you Rabindra story, yeah? I'm not telling you what, that was madness. But the thing is, he passed. All right, let's just finish off this. If you turn the page 6, you'll see this, the influence of peers on health and safety culture. I'll read it out. It's just 2 slides and I'll explain it here, right? So our peers influence us in many ways. Think about this statement. Unless if you're like me, I don't let nobody influence me. If you go in left, I go in right. If you say up, I go in down. Right? So our peers influence us in many ways, one of which can be our safety behavior. The overall attitude of the workforce can be a driving force to influence other workers. Think about that. The overall attitude of the workforce can be a driving force to influence other workers, especially those workers with a dominant or inspiring leadership style. Think about the companies you worked in before, especially those people who are outgoing. Think about the school you was in. Were you one of those persons who just follow everybody else, which is what normally happens at school. School is still kind of developing, right? But as an adult now, are you still influenced by other people? Or do you think for yourself? In the companies, do you think for yourself? Right? I'm not saying what not to do. I mean, I'm thinking about like rule breaking here, right? If you say, the workers, bypass the permit. They say, here what, let's not follow the permit. Let's just sign the permit and tick. But nobody checking nothing. Are you the one to just do the same thing? Right? So it is therefore that the belief and the perception of the group of workers will soon also be your belief as well, if you let them influence you, right? It is therefore that the belief and perception of the group would soon also be that of the individual worker, right? Peers can influence health and safety behavior by, just before I read this slide, let me explain it to you. So when this was written, if you turn to page 6, when this was written, if you want to watch page 6, when this was written, NIBOSH wrote it with a positive perspective to it, right? I think that's the concept in the world today. We try to be more positive than negative. So when they wrote about the influence of peers, they wrote it in a positive way, that the peers could influence you to be safe. Yes, workers can't tell you stop, put on your hard hat. Yes, workers can't tell you, let's follow the GSA. Workers can't say, let's report this accident, let's not hide it, right? So that's what this slide was written, right? But I'll tell you something at the end of this slide, right? So peers can influence health and safety behavior by being present for safety meeting and not hiding in the washrooms, personally wearing PPE, reporting accidents and incidents, effectively communicating with managers, taking part in inspections if needed, taking an active role in safety campaigns, stopping unsafe work, and insisting that it is done in a safe manner. And that's the end of 3.1, right? What I was going to tell you now, this has been a question already too, right? So I'll tell you 3.1 is powerful. 3.1 for about the 5th time today is a powerful part of the syllabus. It's easy because it's just about culture indicators, right? But you see, these two things have come for exam before. The influence of peers has come twice. Safety culture, though, is very common, right? Very, very common. More common than anything else in the whole paper anyway, is safety culture, right? Tell me if you have any questions. I am going to attempt to show you a past paper, but the thing is I don't have any saved. You know, with Zoom, for those who don't know, we have to preload the screen, right? And if I didn't preload it, I'm going to try to see if I have a past paper in it saved. I didn't preload the screen now because I didn't think I'd have, been able to show you one. I seen some past papers here. What I just open them at random, right? I would have loved to open. Actually, this is not my regular computer either. I'm just gonna open whichever one I see. I'm seeing February 2022. I'm seeing June 2022. Generally, Lewis paper is up there. That could be February 2022, and I could be wrong too. I just open the one, I just open anyone, right? I'm trying to see if I have a more recent one now, beside in 2020, but not on this computer. This is not my work computer, really. This is like my Zoom computer, right? So I'm just gonna I'm open June 2022. When it opens, I'll share it with you, right? Because I have to load it and then share it. Because I know you're not seeing it as yet, as far as I know. Are you all with me still, or you all fall asleep?
Still there, still there.
Still there. Okay. It had one in, remember every month I have an exam, right? It had one in June, but I don't have June paper on this computer. You know, I have it, but it's on a flash drive. It'd be harder to locate it on the drive. Tell me if you've seen, are you all seen us yet? Are you all seen the past papers yet? No? Yes? No? Yes? No?
Yes, sir. But
Okay, yes.
I can't really make it out on the screen.
What
It's very
address are
small.
you? It's very small. Okay. My view is normal though. Is it like a smaller view for you all as well, or?
No, my view is
No,
normal as well.
yeah, normal.
Right. Okay. The most I can do, let me try to just get it a bit, increase the magnification. It's on 125. Let me get it on 130 or something. 150, like 150 there, right? In case you're using a phone, right? So if I am correct, of course I could be wrong and be setting up myself here now because I didn't check this past paper before, right? If I'm correct, that means this question paper have a culture question in it. I opened this at random. I didn't pre-plan, right? As you all spoke for yourself. But if I'm correct, then this have a culture question in it, right? So we're going on to watch the questions and them, right? So this one is on selecting contractors, health and safety management systems, and look at have a culture question in it here. And watch what they ask. What appears to be the negative indicators of health and safety culture in this scientific research organization? 15 marks. So plenty marks. That 15 marks is still plenty, right? That's an easy question. Yeah, they go and get 15 negative things. And the point I was trying to tell you is that, let me just come out and say it, right? You probably don't need the book. You probably need the book, but you don't need it because the book only have 6 answers. So where are you going to get 15 things from? Well, you're getting it from the case study. And when they say negative, what you're looking for, good ones or bad ones? As a bad. Let's try to find 2 now. I know it's 7 minutes past 2, but I'm not hurry to finish chapter 2. You see, because remember I tell you 6 times now. The rest are points. 3.2, 3.3, 3.4. It's not as important as this. Now, if it was, you'd have been seeing it here. You'd have been seeing a question. It have more, by the way, like some of these are from 3, from 3.6 and stuff, right? But the point is culture is important because look at it on the paper. Right? The technical was used, the technical use of find it is fishing. I'm just gonna fish for that line. We could find something negative, right? And remember what you have to do, you have to create a sentence. You have to say, in my opinion, the negative indicators of health and safety culture in the scientific research organization is, and then you give what it is. And you then quote a line from the case study. So like if you want to say, I'm just making up one, right? But I'm going to put my marker to make sure that you understand. Remember, folks, in case you forget, because we may have done one some time ago, every response must have an answer. It must have what is negative then, if you do it number 3. And then you must have the supporting lines. You all should remember this, right? You must have both. If you leave out the answer and you just put the line, you'll get no marks. To get the mark, you have to give the answer. You have to say a negative indicator, I lost my slippers, of health and safety culture in the scientific research organization is a lack of supervision. You have to give the answer. And then you say, the line will be, this is seen in the case study where it was mentioned, and you mentioned something about what's happening in the case study. Folks, you'll understand that you must have the answer and the line. If you want to go with another answer, you say another answer, right? A negative indicator of health and safety culture in the scientific research organization is a lack of communication. You can write down these two, folks. You don't have to wait for me to write it. I'm giving you 2. You can say it could be the answer is a lack of proper communication between managers of the scientific research organization and the employees. And then you go and you find that magical line, as I call it, that would satisfy that will show that, they did have poor communication. Folks, you understand what I'm trying to tell you? You don't need the book. All you need is you, right? You have to find these negative indicators. And if you do it the right way, you get 15 marks. 15 and 10, that's 25. This one on top here. And next 10, that's 35. You almost pass. 10 more and you pass. Right? Nobody has a reason to fail this exam. In my school anyway. Because you're being taught. You have a video. You can play it back. You could do the assignment. You could send it in. Right? Nobody have a reason to fail. The online schools are not like this. Check it for yourself and see the online school does give you all the notes until you go and do the exam. You know what's amazing with that? Some people just pass. And there's some people here, after hearing all of this, they will still not pass. Right? At the end of the day, it comes down to that. It comes down, when I say that, it comes down to this here. Answer and line. Answer and line. If you do that technique, you'll pass. Right? 2 strange story went to my head here, but I prefer not tell you about it. I have some students, right? I should probably stop the recording for this. I shouldn't say this on here. So welcome back after, we would have had some nice things there to say about, the best of things to say about NEBOSH. We could continue with this rest of the recording, right? So to look at the answers here in terms of the next negative indicator. Let's see what you have. Again, you could use fission, the technique of fission. Fission does mean you're looking for it, right? You're looking for it, right? Okay, look at have one here, right? Fission is like when you're busy, like me. But in the day of you could use fission too. Fission means it will start with the first line now. It is like, you know what you're looking for? You know what you're looking for? And you go looking for it. We're looking for negative indicators, right? So I think I'll spot one here. A friend of the CEO is a director of an organization experienced in refurbishing and fitting out buildings for educational and laboratory use. The CEO is impressed by their friend's apparent knowledge of all the issues, including those associated with health and safety that needs to be addressed. The friend has mentioned that the organization has recently gained an accredited health and safety management system. Actually, these things sound good. So we might be able to use it. But let's see if there's something bad, because negative we're looking for, right? This has helped reduce costs, including insurance premiums. To gain this accredited system, the Friends organization had undergone an extensive assessment of their policies. Okay, that's good. I'll keep going. I thought I was, okay, I see something in there just now. The CEO believes that this will take care of many issues where there's a lack of experience in the CEO's own organization. thinking if I could take it just now. They asked for the negative indicators. I'm not too sure if we can take that. We probably could, eh? Okay. You find out what you can about this contractor. They do not appear to have had any enforcement action against them. That's actually good. But we're not looking for good, we're looking for bad. So let me go again. Let's try to find something else. You see how this is what is take the time, right? If you wonder what it take people a whole 24 hours, it's to find those magical lines, right? I could have used something from up there now, but I'm trying to see if there's something more apparent now, right? We go down again. There must be something they mentioned that is bad, right? Okay, I spot some others and I spot about 3 more, but it's just one I need, right? So, well, there's a lot of things happening here that is bad, but we might read all of this, and this is permit to work, right? This is actually 3.8, I think. But you could figure something is going on here. For those of us who don't know, a permit to work, you must have like a copy of it for everybody on the shift, right? So what's happened here? You see here, they have a copy of the form. The multi-copy form is quickly completed for the work to start immediately. So that could be bad, right? So you could use that. You can say a negative safety indicator at the scientific research organization is a lack of those things are called safe systems of work. A permit is called safe system of work, right? So that's a good answer. If you want, please write it down. So a lack of a proper safe system of work. And then you could say then this is seen where it was said, the multi-copy form is quickly completed for the work to start immediately. I spotted another one down here with first aid. What just one? An accident happened here, right? Unsure of the first aid site arrangements. Unsure of the first aid site arrangements. So you can say a negative indicator of safety culture is a lack of proper first aid measures or first aid arrangements. Folks, you see how easy it is? It's easy hard, right? It's easy hard, right? So then you say this is seen in the case study where it was mentioned the first aiders, they were unsure of the first aid arrangements, right? So that's how you get it. But it is a bit of a time-consuming thing. In reality, what I was telling you, all the answers itself not hard. What's hard is to find these lines, because without the lines, they don't give the mark. To get the mark, you must have the answer on the line, right? I don't know if you all want to, I don't know if you want to. I mean, you don't have to, eh? I don't know if you want to. Sometimes if you are able to see a student paper, I have 5 minutes again, so I'll share a student paper with you, right? Like, I do a training for repeaters. Like if you're repeating, I do a training for repeaters where we go through somebody paper now and see and ask the question, do you think they got the mark for this? Do you think they got the mark for that? Right? And not as if, I mean, that's just part of the training. So are you all seeing this paper here? This is somebody called Janelle Lewis. Are you all seeing Janelle Lewis?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So she is in Guyana. She's a safety there. I actually have a meeting with that company. I think that's Banks TDL or something, right? I have more than one student there. Again, look at where she has ended up and has created now a training opportunity for me. Are you all still seeing the paper? Because I kind of lost it. Are you all still seeing it? Yeah,
Seeing
because
the
I not
answer,
seen it. Yeah.
the answer sheet.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, when I said yes, okay, but what I do with it, well, not on my view. Right, okay, good. So Janelle Lewis, right? So what I try to tell her, right? Watch her answer. No, I think this is another, this is not the same paper, right? I don't think it is. But watch how long the answers is. It's not that long enough. This is probably another paper, and it would have a culture question in it because if we correct about culture is very common for exam. So let's see if we could find the culture question. Look at it, health and safety culture. Right? I think this could have been 20 marks, but look how easy hard it is. Look how it is. I mean, and let's see if she had what she needed to have. Not generally got 70 something on this exam. This is another questionnaire. It's not the same paper. They're showing you that every paper have a culture questionnaire, right? So a negative indicator of health and safety culture is lack of trained staff, which is evident with, and she quote the line, a very short induction given to the apprentice when he was employed. My question to you is that how could that be hard? Why are people saying NIBOSH is hard? Does not hard to write, does not maths, does not trigonometry, does not sine, cosine, and tan. Right? How that could be hard? And this girl gets 70 something with this. By the way, I had a Trinidadian. I will show you. I had a Trinidadian. I got 70 something in this last exam here. And I'll show you. Because the exam thing right here. I won't show you everybody mark. I'll try to show you. I'll try to zoom in on him. So this is May 2024 results, if you can see that. I don't know if you can see. This is May 2024 results. I think you can see that, right? Yes. And look at how people just get right next to the 70 something of somebody that failed. So I tried to block anyone that failed. I can show you and I'm gonna show you, right? Next thing, the people that failed. Right? I'll show you someday. So I showed the wrong thing. Sorry, this one. Right? Somebody got 50 something, somebody got 60, but a Trinidadian got 71. Like somebody failed down here too. Right? Remember, NIBOSH is not cost out. I'm not giving you a certificate. This is not UE where we print the certificate in the office and give it. Just going to England for marking, right? But you see some high marks, 60, 71. We could have a next 71. If this is not the same person, there's a next person, like a next 71 here. Right? In it to have some people that fail. Let somebody get 71 and somebody get 25. We'll try not to show you the name. Some 60, some 70, some 50, somebody get 25. Why? Why people had to fail? It's not a hard exam. Right? But at the same time, it's not a free course. This is not a free course. This is not, when I say free, it's like if when you finish you get a cert. But when you get the cert, you get it from the UK and it worth something. The point of that is that people are passing. These guys that got at 71, them are just normal fellas. Right? Take a look at the next answer from Janelle, the last one before we leave, right? In number 3. A negative indicator of health and safety culture is a lack of trained staff. Okay, let's read another one beside in training, right? Let's see what can read another one here. Number 9. A negative indicator of health and safety culture is no recording of any accidents or near misses, although the senior salesperson had observed near misses due to rushing the job, and no records were ever made by leadership. So how can anybody say that's hard to do? Right? I'll stop there for today, right? Now I could have pushed 3.2 as opposed to do the past paper, but I wanted to show you now. Remember, 3.1, you see for yourself, it's not me. 3.1 is very important. It kind of is on every past paper, right? So in that sense, then it makes some sense to kind of get something going on 3.1. I'm gonna try to stop the recording. Sorry, I stopped the share there suddenly. How do we stop the recording?